big picture. And we have some recommendations from y'all, and I hear we're going to go talk about them a little bit. Is that correct?
Great, we would love that. It's in reference to the signage portion of our zoning ordinance and requirements. And
That is the, excuse me, this is
Daphne.
Daphne sign ordinance.
Just because, since that's where we started initially, we just kind of wanted to show you, if you want to see comparisons, but we don't have to compare to Daphne, because we didn't make our decisions based on Daphne. But just so you know where we started. Our current sign ordinance actually does not match.
I'm glad you said it, because everybody comes back and says, oh, we're not Daphne, we're not Daphne. All we did was took the skeleton of Daphne and tried to, receive you were there too, tried to Saraland out of it. You would, in every meeting I was at, you were in,
Right.
if not more.
Our ordinance doesn't match Daphne's as it is, but the problems we found, there were discrepancies among pages in the sign ordinance, and so it was confusing, and when people were coming to apply for a sign permit, there were different pages showed different information as what the requirements were. And we also found a number of typos that we've gone through and made corrections to just simple typographical errors. So, I don't know, would you like us to walk through all of
Please.
this? Okay, we can
Please.
do that. So look, this is Ms. Kate handed you under the letter on page 1. Everything is
Okay.
spelled out as it is. It says currently reads, and then underneath it, hereby amended. So that you'll see where we started and what we'd like to amend it to. We were wanting to clarify the billboard definition. And the difference is that elevated by a pole, adding elevated by a pole, intended for view by the general public, while traveling by way of motor vehicles. I believe Diane Burnett helped us find this
Yeah.
definition of billboard.
And my question is, why the difference?
The difference because
You have a different one than what we have. Okay.
off-premises or off-site signs do not equal billboards always, because not all, there was a definition for off-premises signs, but there was not, it wasn't clear between what a billboard was
Give
and
me
an
an
off-premise
example
sign.
of an off-premises sign that would not be a billboard.
Yes. For example, at the corner of Cleveland and Shelton Beach Road, there's a sign for the Nazarene Church. So that's not on their premises, that's an off-premise sign, that's not a billboard.
Okay.
So we wanted to clarify what a billboard was, because there's other parts in the sign ordinance that talks about the placement of billboards, and we wanted to clarify what a billboard is. We felt like it was the difference between a billboard and an off, it's not always the same thing, an off-premise sign and a billboard.
So basically, it's on a pole, it's a billboard. If it's not on a pole, even though it's a big giant sign, it's not a billboard. That's what it says.
Yes, that is what it says.
I'm just saying, to me, it's a loophole where somebody can put 2 wooden struts instead of a pole on the same sign and call it a non-billboard. Right now, a billboard's a pole that
Correct.
has a giant sign on it.
Correct.
Instead, I could put the same size sign, instead I'll have 2 wooden posts coming down.
Right.
Frame. That's not, according to your definition, that's okay. I don't think that's okay.
Okay.
This says elevated by a pole or poles.
Yeah, but a pole's different from a post.
Ms. Pate, what is
Think
the
they're the
current
same thing.
definition of billboard? Do you know?
There would be a section that
And
says.
if a post is the same as a pole, then the sign Ms. Couch just talked about is still a billboard.
See,
And that would probably be grandfathered in if it's a
Well,
law.
wait a minute.
But
There's a difference here. This says a large off-premise or off-site sign elevated by poles intended for view by the general public while traveling by way of motor vehicles. Advertising and so.
A church sign meets all of those requirements.
What sign meets all
The
this?
sign that
The
Ms. Couch,
Nazarene Church.
the Nazarene Church sign, she quoted as not being a billboard, meets all of those requirements.
A large,
It's a large sign elevated by a pole, intended for view by the general public while traveling. That's what that sign is.
So,
But a billboard's a lot bigger.
You don't define that. You
Well,
can't,
So we'll define the size of the billboard?
that's what I'd like y'all to
Because
do.
Yeah.
that's fine, because
Yeah, I
church
accept
signs,
taking
off-premise
that
church
post.
signs actually have their own
Made a
definition.
balloon,
Okay.
put
So
two
using that
up there.
example, all of a sudden you
Building.
run into another definition.
All right.
Okay, but I would like y'all to define what your
That's
large
fine.
sign is.
Let me ask this, before we
All day in.
get all the way into this.
On a billboard.
We presented this as a single
All right, you
amendment.
want to determine that's what we're trying to
Um,
do.
We can
do
take the
have
bits
to-
and pieces.
You can,
We
okay.
can take the bits and
That's fine,
pieces.
that would be great,
We can
because
take-
that way we.
So we're gonna delay that one, let y'all
All
work on
right,
it
so
more.
we're gonna define the sign.
Okay. I'll make it happen.
That is, I completely understand and agree. Okay, next one, non-conforming signs. This is, when we adopted the new ordinance, we had a date within 7 years of the adoptions that people with non-conforming signs would have to conform. Well, we've not enforced that to any degree, so what we would like to do is try to start over with that 7 years. So the difference is the date, where it was January 1st, 2014, it's been extended to January 1st, 2007, because we have no enforcement of signs.
Okay.
Uh,
Let me ask you a
ordinances
question.
currently.
How many
But
years?
this would be barring, we would have to start enforcing so that we can
That's
abide
my-
by this 7 years.
That's my question. If we agree to this, I don't wanna be meeting back with y'all 2 years from now, saying we're still haven't done anything, and we want 2 more years tacked on to it, and we keep going and going and
Right.
going, we don't get
But
anywhere.
we have been enforcing it
Okay.
for some people. Regions has been enforcing it, there's been.
Those are
when
new
peop-
signs.
Yeah, but there's been people who, when they upgrade signs, when Ron went to upgrade his thing, he went to the new sign ordinance.
Correct. If people come to get a
If
build, a
someone
sign
else-
permit, then they are aware of it. The thing that's happening is people haven't been notified that there's a new sign ordinance, and they don't know that if they wanna make a change, they've gotta do, or they have to do it a certain way or comply within 7 years. There's
But
been
I
no
thought-
notification.
But there was, we had public hearings of it. I thought there was something in the newspaper where we talked about the sign ordinance, and we talked about it in many council meetings where in 7 years, everybody will be
Okay, but
compliant.
since then, people are changing signs, putting signs up, they don't have sign permits.
Then
They
whose
haven't
fault
done-
is that? And how are we gonna, how are we gonna start enforcing if we haven't been enforcing it now?
okay.
That's why we're here, because this is something that needs to happen, and we're just the planning commission. We don't enforce it. I don't know who enforces that in our city. We're trying to get this to where we can move
This-
forward in a
this
positive
helps.
way.
What come up with this, I think, is the building code needed something they could work with. The code enforcement people there. They didn't have anything that was locked in where they could say, here's in black and white exactly what we're supposed to be doing.
When did we pass this?
And,
3 years ago?
yeah, but the,
About
So we
that.
still got 4 years left.
okay, now,
But you
We
had
can't start
two,
enforcing.
you had one thing on this calling one situation out, but when you go back here to the
Yeah, and I thought y'all,
schedule,
yeah.
it was different. They didn't match up with each other, they weren't married together.
Where on the schedules are not matching up?
In the book, as it stands, there's an actual schedule on page 180, and back in the text, there's written text to describe that schedule, and they don't match. The
What does it
numbers
say?
are inconsistent. And so what our suggestion is
You're
to
saying
take
the
out.
numbers of what a real conforming sign is are inconsistent. I just wanna understand.
The size and
Okay,
height.
so the
are
requirements for a conforming sign have been inconsistent in the
Correct.
book. So until now,
It's been difficult to enforce it.
it's been
because-
difficult to enforce it because we haven't had a absolute correct,
Yes.
okay.
okay,
So we're trying to give business owners a fresh start so that we can have a clean sign ordinance that we can enforce and have people abide by.
they still have 4 years.
I agree, but there's been people who put signs up, we haven't made them comply. Brand new signs, we
But that-
haven't made them comply. I don't know.
I understand.
You're